What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the Let's Build the U.S.S. Voyager Season 1, Episode 41. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and help me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we're going to be picking up right where we left off, detailing our engines. So let's kick back, relax, and we're going to jump right into this thing. So really today we're going to be focusing on our engines, and then well, as far as detailing them, we're going to do a slight modification to the pylons, and then we're going to add in some detailing for them as well. Now what we're focusing on right now is adding in the red strips that Voyager has on each side of the engine. The difficult part about what we're doing right now is that unless we use a mangrove slab, the red mangrove slab, we're not going to be able to build that going with the half slabs. We'd have just to build it off the side here. So you may not be 100% happy with how this looks. I'm not going to lie, when I looked at it, I didn't really have a problem with it. I think my only deal that I had issues with is when you look at it from the front, you can't see that red detailing. And for eagle-eyed people that pay attention to their reference material, when you look at Voyager from the front view, you can still see that red cutout. So that could be something that we might address later on. I don't know. But for right now, I don't think that this is going to be a bad addition. It doesn't look bad. It looks good enough. This is why sometimes I say sometimes you just got to throw something down, see how it looks, and you can always make adjustments to it at a later date. But these red cuts, I mean, they're not very big. They're relatively small. So we don't have to go super crazy as far as the size of them. It's really just a conservative cut, more or less. I don't know. We'll see. There's a couple of things with Season 2 that I'm toying with. It's just going to come down to if I make the change, will it look good? But I won't know about any of that stuff until we really jump into it. That's why, like, honestly, this is another reason why I don't want to do Season 2 of Voyager back to back with Season 1, because I want to give it a chance to marinate. You know what I mean? I want to take my eyes off of it for a while. I want to work on some other stuff, so that this way when I come back to Voyager at that point, I can look at what I did with Season 1 and make an assessment like, okay, now that we're getting into Season 2 and we're going to do the interior, is there anything else that I want to change with the build? So I want to pause here, talk a little about as far as what we got going on here. You can see that I added a blue builder line going off our first cut here on our pylons. This is because this bracket that we made previously, and I talked about this, that we're going to be moving it, because this is where the engine should be bending when it goes to warp. It's too far out right now. Shouldn't have this much of a lip going out to it, so we need to move it. We need to move it over as close to the ship as we possibly can. So that's really what we're getting ready to do right now. So I've decided that I want to rework the pattern for the front of the pylon. And what I'm doing here is I'm doing a pattern of 2 for the front. So we go over 2, we go out 1 with a cut, and then a pattern of 2. As long as you're following your pattern, you cannot make a mistake. If you found that you made one, you need to go back, double check your work, and then come back to it. Another reason why I'm making this change is because the front pattern does not match the back. Not necessarily a big deal. They don't have to match. But I think this will work a little bit better than what we have. So I don't mind experimenting and making the change. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. But with that being said, if you're somebody and you're looking at what I have and you're looking at what you have and you're like, you know what, I'm not feeling this change, don't make it. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? This whole thing, everything that what we're doing here, these are just suggestions as far as what you could do with your build. But at the end of the day, I encourage customizing this. Make it your own. If you disagree with what I'm doing, that's okay. You don't have to agree with every single decision that I make. Make this build your own. Do whatever you want to do. Because at the end of the day, the whole point of this is to have a little bit of fun and relax. That's why I never really respond to the canon gatekeepers and people that get mad when they see that I've taken a liberty with something that I made, and it's like, look, like, take a chill pill. It's not that serious. This isn't a real thing. It's a thing of fiction. And at the end of the day, like, you can pull up multiple diagrams that will have different interiors, and to me, it's these things to a certain degree it's open to interpretation is what I'm trying to get at. And so what if it varies? If it's what you like, that's all that matters. So run with it, you know? You're taking the time to build this thing out yourself. You might as well enjoy what you're doing and have fun with what you're doing. You know what I mean? This is what I try to do, because I'm not going to lie, when I first started building on Minecraft, when I was like building starships and stuff, I had that attitude, like, and I was just constantly deleting stuff because it wasn't looking like what I wanted it to, and I would try to do it within, or not with everything, but because to be honest with you, a lot of what I end up building on here is actually within canon. It's really only a couple of things here and there, like with layout, or like maybe there's a variation in a room and stuff like that. But I think what I'm trying to get at is that when I stopped worrying about having a complete true build and just focus more on having fun with it, I started to enjoy this whole process way, way more than when I was doing it the other way. I think is what I was trying to get at, because, you know, you can have those variations. There's nobody that can sit there and tell you that you're wrong. I mean, if this is your build, just go for it. That's what I say. So now we've made an adjustment to the shape of the front of our pylon. We're going to rework our bracket here to imply where the engine should bend. Because within the mechanics of Minecraft, we physically can't make it bend and do that. That's okay, but we're still going to have that attention to detail and making sure that the ship looks like it can do it. That's what matters. And I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just doing a row of 2 with the half slabs, which is what we had over there anyway. And I'm just bringing it all the way back, and I'm making sure that the front end and back end both have a lip, so it goes with a cut. So I stop basically 1 block shy of going out to that outer lip. And once we have that, now we're going to come back and we're going to delete our old bracket because we don't need it anymore. We're going to do different detailing for the ship on the top end of the pylons. So we need to get rid of this stuff so that it doesn't confuse us later on. So you can start doing that now, and then we're also going to do a light gray concrete line going around the half slabs that we just added. And the reason I'm doing that is just to make it pop just a little bit more, because as we zoom out, these half slabs will get lost in the color of the ship. So that's one of the reasons why I'm adding in this gray right now, because when I zoom out, I still want people to be able to see that line, and I want it to pop out, just like it's doing right now. So I've completed the steps where I've cleaned up both sides, and I've made the adjustments, and now we're going to move on to the next step. So now we're going to do this in gray, just the back end and front end. So again, we're trying to make it look like that bracket as much as we can. And you don't have to go crazy. You know, sometimes less is more. Just having that right there in the front, you know, really helps to sell it that there is a bracket there. So we just have to make a point to do it. Everything that we're doing here on the top and bottom, and then also deleting our leftovers and fixing what we had. So the old bracket, we've got to delete that, because otherwise we'll just have a hodgepodge of stuff and it's not going to look as clean. And see, that doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too bad at all. It does break up the pattern just a little bit with that pattern of gray that goes along the back outline, but to be honest with you, it's so negligible that it doesn't even bother me a bit, and the detailing itself stands out enough that I can completely live with it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Really doesn't. But that's definitely looking a lot better than what we had before. It's a lot tighter. It feels a lot more right. Yeah, she's not looking too bad. Starting to look more and more like Voyager with every episode. We still have to drop a couple of pounds off Voyager on her sides here, but we will get into that later on. I will make a promise to you guys, like the change that we make to the size and the sides is not going to be nearly as significant as when we rebuilt the whole front end. We won't be doing that again. It's just going to be taking off some of the extra layers. It's not going to be too challenging, but when we get into it, I will show you guys exactly what I mean. Yeah, she's not looking bad at all. Has all the shapes that she really needs to have from almost every angle. It's not perfect, but it's looking good. And that's really, like, that's what I care about the most at this point. Because, I mean, this is the other thing, too. Like, I've never built an Intrepid class ship before. This is my first attempt ever, you know? And there's going to be that trial and error period. There's no way to get around it. At least for me, anyway. Sometimes when I build, I'm not the type of person that will sit here and lie to people and be like, oh yeah, like, I did this perfectly the first go around. It's like, yeah, no, that's not true. Like, it took, as you guys saw with doing the tutorial with me, that there is a little bit of a trial and error process, and that's just kind of how it's going to be when we're doing any of these ships, especially for the first time. Now, if I had built the Intrepid class a couple of times, I'd probably be able to refine the process a little bit more and build her a little bit better, but we don't really have that kind of time. That's probably why, like, one of the reasons, like, when you guys see the Enterprise D Season 2 come out eventually, when that drops, you'll probably notice that there's going to be some things here and there that might look a little bit better on my version. And I'll go over that stuff with you guys to show you how you can do that too. But it's just one of those things that when you come back and you do something again a second time, or even a third time, you know, basically what I'm trying to say is that you're more inclined, you know more of what you're getting yourself into. And you've been faced with these problems before, and you might, as you're doing it the first time, you're like, oh, okay, like, after you finally figure it out, well, like, well, that's just what I'll just end up doing the next time if I do something like that, or if I'm in a similar scenario. This is why building these different ships is just super helpful, because, like, what I'm doing with Voyager, not everything, but a lot of this, like, especially with the saucer is probably going to be the most imperative part that you can compare to, like, a Sovereign class, even though it's not exactly the same shape. But when you start, if you take a Sovereign class and Intrepid class and look at them side by side, you can start to identify similarities that they have. They both don't have a neck. They have an elongated saucer. So this is definitely a ship that you could do to prep yourself, more or less, to get ready for something like that. That's like, as a perfect example, when before I built the Enterprise D, to kind of brush up on that just a little bit, I built the Cerritos. And even though it's like apples and oranges, the Cerritos was still from Next Generation era, and some of the designs on it resembled a Galaxy class a little bit, not a lot. And like, I'll be honest, like with the Cerritos, I was hoping to get a little bit more experience out of it than I ended up getting, because it turned out that as I went and I actually built out the Cerritos, it was vastly different than even attempting a Galaxy class. So you might be in a situation like that too, and it's like, oh well, I'll build this ship out to prep me out for another one. Then you do it, and it's like, well, that didn't help me at all. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter too much, but it's kind of going to happen, is kind of what I'm trying to say too. Like, you'll build stuff out and to prep you for it, but then it turns out that it just really didn't get you ready for it. But it's okay, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to try things out. But I don't regret building the Cerritos. I'm happy that I did it. I don't think, like, I said it for a really long time that I was afraid of building a Galaxy class because I didn't know if I could do it. So that was one of the reasons, like, I veered away from making one for as long as I did, because no joke, from like as soon as I started putting videos out on YouTube, all the time I'd have people ask me, like, when are you going to build a Galaxy class? I need to see you do that. And I had to wait until I got to a point where I felt that I was good enough builder to even attempt it. But I think we're looking pretty good here. This middle area right here, I'm going to fill, like we did the outline here in gray. Everything in between here, minus the yellow, all this white, we're going to fill this in with gray. Because at this point now, we're starting to do more and more detailing, and you're going to see that as we go, that we're going to be doing less and less as far as making alterations to how the ship looks physically, and more additions to enhancing it. But you'll see that as we go. We're really rocking and rolling on this build. I'm loving how Voyager is turning out. But if you have any questions regarding today's episode, or any builds you want to see, or just dropping by to say hey, drop a comment below. I love hearing from everybody. You guys are awesome. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for me today. I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And yeah, I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section, and post your photos in Discord.